Well, good evening and welcome back. It's great to be interacting with you again and for another severe weather event. Welcome to Sydney Weather Nerds, and our live updates are starting about the potential for an east coast low this weekend around obviously the Sydney, the Hunter, Illawarra areas, but obviously focusing on the Sydney area. And let's hop into it because I'm not going to take your time. Don't forget you can ask questions in the chat. It's open, ready to go. Please remember there is a bit of lag between when you ask the question and when I see it. So get your questions in as soon as you can and I'll respond to them as soon as I see them. Otherwise, let's hop into it. So first of all, we're going to look at the current synoptic setup, which is as at 5 o'clock this afternoon. We can see the high that's been dominating our weather still sitting there, slowly easing off into Tasman. We can see this massive area here, which is the cold pool, upper cold pool, and associated weather that's going to actually spark the potential for an east coast low. Now, reminding that that is not an east coast low, what you're seeing there, that's just a standard low. What we need to see for an east coast low is the cold pool in the upper levels, which we'll see very soon, to detach from the polar vortex and the cold pool that we'll see, and then basically sit on its own. And then because of that, it'll actually destabilize the environment, create a huge temperature differential with the surface once it gets those beautiful warm soupy waters of the Tasman, and then bomb into a low. So we'll look at this as the actual surface pressure, so we'll skip along to that. This is 5 o'clock today, and we'll look at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Hopefully today there's going to be no lagging for you guys, and hopefully there's people on here ready to go. Remember to stick your questions in. We can see here that already the cold air is starting to initiate real strong cyclogenesis. Look at that, that's a 974 low. That's getting into like category 3, very strong category 3. If it was a tropical storm, 974, almost category 4, like severe tropical cyclone status. It's quite intense, and that just shows you what is going on in the atmosphere with this work and with this air, the cold air. And this is Friday, 5 o'clock. We'll see that low has disappeared, and that's good for us, for those hoping to see some sort of east coast low event, because it's not going to interfere with the actual disconnection or the shearing off of the colder air. You can see that now it's a 947 low, and that's the other feature I was telling you about, which is possibly next week that could look even. You can see here that very sort of grey line extends way up into the Indian Ocean. Like, that is how strong this. It's a beast. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so then 5 o'clock Saturday. Then Saturday is when we start to see things. So remember, this is the surface, so you're not going to see things straight away, but you can already see there's a dip in the isobars off the New South Wales coast, and we can see that there's a very light area winds there, and we'll zoom in and look at that a bit later. And that is where we're expecting the cold air now is starting to interact with that warm Tasman. You can see the increased winds to the south of the system being sucked in towards that, and also then the tropical moisture being drawn all the way in from way out in the Pacific Ocean, dragged down into the northern side of the system. And this is a combination of these plus the warm sea surface temperatures, which is going to likely lead to this potential east coast low. So we'll skip across to Saturday afternoon. We can see now the isobars starting to extend, that trough is starting to deepen. That is what we're looking for. And moving ahead then to Saturday night, we can see really starting to get a kink and some turning. And then going into Sunday, we'll start to see a little bit of a kink then right on the coast. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go away from the like the macro scale. We're going to zoom in now to the meso scale, like to the local. We can see this up close. So let's go. We'll zoom in just enough so you can see what's going on. Okay, so we can see here that really light blues, that's areas of very still air, and that's basically the trough or the leftover of this, the southerly changes coming through, which is attached to the upper cold air, and we'll look at that cold air in a second. So this is overnight Sunday. We can see that there's really starting to get some spinning up off just between the Central Coast, Sunny Coast, and Newcastle and the Hunter. And we just see that starting to turn. We can see that like area, the trough still lying there. No real sort of bombing yet. And you're looking at this low with me, so I haven't looked at this yet. So I believe this is, just double check, this is the actual latest EC, because it's so slow sometimes to update on windy. And where are we? Come on, EC, where are you? Oh, Wes does this. I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. Come on, show us. No, no, no. Why does it always do this to me? There we go. Yeah, so it's updated. Great. So we're looking at the very freshest EC off the models right now. So you're getting live up to date. So we can see here now, starting to wind up. We can start to see the inflows now. Still gusty south to southeasterlies for us, regardless of what happens at this stage. And then moving into Sunday lunchtime, we can start to see the turning there. Still a bit slow. It's interesting. And there we go. We start to see that kink, and that's what we look for to see this. And you can see where the whereabouts it is the coast. So that's why it's actually an east coast low and not a Tasman low if it does develop, because of the proximity to the coast. This is one of the key factors, the key ingredients for an east coast low, is it has to be within a certain range of the coast, otherwise it's not an east coast low. And we're getting into now Sunday afternoon, and this is it's pushed back the timing a bit, which is always worrying to me when it pushes the timing back, because I don't like that. It says to me that there's still some grey areas. But anyway, we can still see they're starting to sort of spin around a bit there. Let's go into Sunday night. Still it hasn't taken up, which is interesting. So we're looking at this live together. Going now into Sunday overnight. You can see really start to see still that turning here, and there's a low over here now also in the Tasman forming. So there's a small surface low up here off the sunny coast and Hunter, and then there's also one now off into the Tasman. And we can see it really starting to wind up, and you can see the models are having obviously difficulty resolving, and that's not surprising with East Coast Low because they're very RS surface feature, and then they extend up into the uppers. But you can see there's a kinking here, so there's definitely like a very deep low going on. We can see very strong winds just off the Sydney coast. And these aren't gusts, by the way, these are just normal winds too. So and we can see a very like a low centre there. Not looking very east coastal low to me at this stage. It's looking more at Tasman. We can see still very deep low though, very deep Tasman low. Still pretty close to it, so not looking east coast low on the EC model, but still extremely strong, very strong Tasman low. Really starting to wrap around there, and you can see that classic inflow features at very low level centre there. Not looking very east coast low to me at this stage. That's on the EC, and then we can see it start to slip away, which is quite usual. Now that's not unusual, given that there's still quite a few days out. So like if this is now probably like Sunday into Monday, we're still 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 days out. So I would ignore this. So this is giving us the indication. My concern at this stage, and to be honest with you, is the timing. Like I'm concerned when things get pushed back 10, 12, even 24 hours. That makes me feel nervous. Anyway, we will now look at, we'll go to Saturday and we'll look at what the icon looks at, which is the lower res model, because it's now kicking into gear. So we can see it also very much mirrors EC in relation to the development of a trough. You can see that this is obviously the strong southerly cold, the flowing into the trough. We can on the north and the south. You can see the trough lies here, which is the light blue areas of not much wind at all. And moving into Saturday afternoon, you really start to see really starting to wind up there again. They're all inflowing. The difference between Icon and EC, you might notice, is that Icon takes it quite inland, which indicates that the cold air still is coming towards the coast. It's not quite over the coast yet. It's the upper cold air because it's still sucking in like that big extractor fan. And then we can see that is an east coast low. You can see how close it is, how it's a discrete centre. There's a circulation around it. It's really starting to wind up. It's just off the mid-north coast, which is probably, if you want to see an east coast low here, it's probably a better location in some respect because it has a little bit more time to slip down the coast if that's what it does. So let's check on now to Saturday night. And we can really start to see it winding up with a very strong inflow on all the sides. Definitely that's an east coast lowy look on that. And we can see now here we're really close to the coast and just raging away off the coast. And you can see that is an east coast low. Very classic signs of east coast low. Extremely strong winds on not very close to the centre. Cold chord lows tend to have their winds not very close around the low level circulation zone, which is where we say the heart of a low is, whereas tropical cyclones do because their processes are different. And you can see great to the south there. That is definitely an east coast low. and moving down. Look at that little pinprick of an eye. That is definitely a very strong, aggressive East Coast low on the Icon model. Absolutely classic features. Very strong winds on the southern side, not much on the northern side. That is classic because that's where the gradient pressure is strongest. The pressure gradient, the difference is strongest is on the southern side, of course. And looking into Sunday lunchtime, we can see basically lows almost over us. So it must come ashore, well, scrape right down the coast. And don't forget, this is 1, 2, 3. This is on the 4th day now, so we're at the very extremity of the Icon model. So don't get too hung up on exact locations, that sort of stuff. We're looking at general patterns here. And look, as I said before, didn't I? I said it must come very close to us crossing us. Well, the core is almost dead over Sydney on Sunday mornings up to Sunday lunchtime. Timings I'd ignore. Then by Sunday afternoon, you can see it slips to our south. Starts pummeling into the Illawarra on the south coast, which is very classic ECL behaviour. And then away she goes inland. She'll start to unwind, and we'll start to get the drier wraparound effects from the west and northwest, which is quite classic ECL. So on the Icon, ECE, I'm not overly. Yeah, it's definitely going. It's got a strong low there. It's not resolving into the coast like this one is. So. And this is where we get this ridiculous runaround now, which is why everybody asks me, why have you said an ECL? It's because I'm still not satisfied that it's locked in at 1 at this stage. If I was going to go for Icon, absolutely 100% ECL, no doubt in my mind. But let's go and have a look at the GFS now. So I'm going through like the resolution ones, the ones that are a bit higher resolution, so we get some idea, because don't forget GFS being at 22 kilometers or whatever it is going to just give you a general pattern. And you can see straight away, like the general pattern for GFS is lower pressure around, and you can see the winds upping in. And then you can see it also has a centre or something around Sandy Coast, Newcastle, and another sort of surface feature off the coast. You can see the surface feature is not very strong, so that's probably just the cold front and the associated, flow into the cold front. This is the area here, which is obviously the cold stick, because see the flow still going inland here? That says to me the cold air, that most of the cold air is still not over the water. So ignore what's going to the right there. This is where you want. When these winds start to shift back coming towards us or wrapping around, that's when we know the cold air is back over the water. So we'll have a look here. And there you go, voila. You'll see the air still flowing in there, but you can see it starting to really wind up there. That's probably as close as GFS will get to an ECL because of its very low resolution. That's probably very much an East Coast low, but we'll see. And you can see now already getting close to the coast and winding up. Yeah, GFS is definitely going for an ECL as well. Look at that. Wow, really. Now it's got a discrete centre. The winds are wrapping around. Strongest winds on the southern side of the system, which is classic, because that's also enhanced by the jet stream, which is up way up above. It's also running up from the south as well, so that's why you get the strongest winds on the south. On the southern side of the system, really spinning away there quite nicely. Hopefully it's not too laggy tonight, so please let me know in the comments about how it's going. I've tweaked quite a lot of things. I've experimented with a heap of stuff to get this sorted. And we can see there, and it's starting to be a classic, more now starting to move away, which is not unusual. But again, this is now 4 days, nearly 5 days out, so I wouldn't necessarily go with that too much. Once these ECLs do wind up, they tend to do what their own thing is compared. They do, and it will also depend what's happening to the east of the system, whether there's a higher building, it's going to cradle it, all that sort of stuff kicks into play. It's more about the fact that it does pick it up. Alright, let's going into Saturday. We'll go back to Saturday with GFS now. Access, the last of the main models that Windy has available. So Saturday we can see Access. This line here is actually the cold front. It's not anything other than usual. That's quite typical of a cold front. And we'll see that's what's coming through Friday, Saturday, as we've been forecasting. You can see that cold front pushing right up, and you can still see the wind being sucked inland there, which is quite evident that the cold area has not reached the coast, which I was telling you about before. And then we can start to see that little tweaks. We'll just scoop down a bit so we can see a bit more of north of the system. So start to see there's that little bend in the isobars there, which is the cold air moving towards the coast. Still nothing. We can see there's a bit of a low, but that's more the cold front that's moving north, interacting. Still the air being sucked in. I haven't looked at any of these models yet, so I'm not sure what they say. So you're seeing them live with me because I've been busily making dinner, so I could do this. We can see it's actually going more for that Tasman low, quite a deep Tasman low, as you can see. But again, this is 4 days out, so not 100% sure. Access has not been that good with ECLs, to be honest, and it's not trying to talk up or talk down scenario. It's just saying reality is. But you know, when they all have low pressure in the region and very strong winds and very cold upper air around it, you know, it's game on if it happens. It's just a matter of timing. We can just see again, it's pushing south. And there we go. Look at that. This is what I'm saying with Access. Like, it's such an annoying thing because we're now getting out to 5 days, which is a little bit towards the mid sort of, you know, it's medium sort of accuracy, and then that's really quite close to the coast, and you can see quite a very, and that's not even wind gusts, that's standard winds. And what have we got there? We've got, you know, nearly 40 knots. Just that's constant winds. That's not even getting close to gusts. So you'll be getting close to 60 knots there, maybe gusts. We'll look at that. And that's Monday. What I was saying before. And look at that. Wow, it's pushing actually towards the coast. This is what does my head in with these situations, and which is why I'll never ever hype things up, and I'll never get locked into the 72 hours beforehand or less, because this sort of crap happens to me, and it's very frustrating to try and forecast and pick up trends when they're skipping all over the place like this. And that's why I always had Mondays. Look at that. That is a classic ECL. If you're ever going to see a classic ECL from Access, which is, I just don't know. For a low to form out in the Tasman like that and then retrograde back towards the coast is extraordinary, and it says to me, A, that Access is having issues actually determining and resolving where this stuff's going to happen. It's actually picking up. You can see the winds inland now have totally moved away and moving back to southwesterlies, which indicates that the cold area is well out of the water. So it's a timing thing, you know. Icon running with the standard timing, EC is a bit all over the place, which is unusual for EC. Even Access, GFS, pretty close to it. I don't know. This is just becoming very annoying. And I don't know. I mean, an ECL moving like that away, again, unheard of. And ignore this big low, because that's just basically saying where, like, there's just a broad area. This is a small areas, and you can see it starting to unwind, which is classic ECL behavior. And then a Tasman low bombs, and you can see, if I just zoom out, that is a classic Tasman low. But look where the winds are way away from it. Look at that infeed. Whoa, that is just extraordinary. And that's probably the next. And look at that. That's really nasty, really nasty Tasman low that bombs. And that's obviously because of that cold air, and we can see with some quite strong westerlies. And then bang, this is that second feature I was telling you about that I've been watching, like that second aggressive cold ball. Look at that coming up. Holy moly. And we're getting to the very outer edge of this now, but look at that. And that's not gusts, that is solid, you know, winds. That's not gusts. So if I quickly look at gusts, wow. I mean, wow. As I said, 50 plus knots, you know, destructive winds are 54 knots more. That's close to very destructive wind gusts. I mean, look at that. That is just insane. Really insane. That will probably see snow, I'd say, in, again, another low pressure system, which is what I was warning you about. Like I said, Thursday system's probably going to be stronger into next weekend. And then here we go. Destructive winds already out to sea. But this is way out the end of the model, so don't get too hyped about this. But I've been flagging with you and been watching this as well. Like the consequential cold pull that comes behind the current system this weekend is a lot deeper and a lot stronger than this one. Extraordinary. And look at that. Another potential. I did say another potential East Coast low for next weekend. That is another classic East Coast low behaviour. So really, the sequence of events is cold change, which is normally associated with the upper cold pool. We're getting a very meridional flow, which is north-south, as opposed to zonal flow, which is west-east, which is allowing the cold air to come up from and detach from the polar vortexes. That's what's enabling this. Cold front, attached to the cold pool. Cold pool gets over the warm sea, bombs are low. Clears up for a couple of days, windy, weather for us. Next cold front raises up even stronger. Another low bombs off the coast. Wacko. It's going to be a very busy 10 days for us, so please be patient if you're asking for messages, lots of stuff, what's going on. Please don't bombard me about what about on this day or that day. Please rather send me a DM if you do have a question about it, and I will try and get to it. It's really going to be balancing life and work and these two massive events, this is quite significant, this one. I want to just quickly see what EC says about this because, no, Icon be no good. Let's have a look at EC's going out. I mean, it has similar to what Axis is, which is incredibly unusual that far out. I mean, look at it, developing a huge cold front surging up. The winds are a bit different, and then we can see they're starting to get that kink. Now, it doesn't have the into the weekend, but there's something definitely going up there. We don't have, but EC doesn't go that little extra days like Axis does, but you can see like the cold front's pushing way up, and then we'll see this bump in the isobars here, which is moving through. So let's see what's GFS, what laughs are going to give us. Wow. So it has that aggressive Tasman low as well, clearing out again, and you can see behind it next system, which I've been telling you about, it has it as well. I mean, when all three of the main models are picking this stuff up, and look at that surging up the coast. Yeah, I mean, you'll see the resolution diaper because don't forget this is 22 Ks. It's 10 days out now. It's like throwing a dart at a moving 747. It's pretty, yeah. But you can see like there's definitely something coming again towards the end of this week. Next week, sorry. Okay. All right. So let's. What time is it now? I've got to keep it on the time. Okay. So let's have a look at the rainfall. So we're going to look at GFS first. This is the accumulated precipitation for GFS just for the weekend. So this is from Saturday to Monday. You can see 125 mils. This is obviously the concern, but it's in the northern part of the riverine catchment, which is good for news for most people. Still some solid falls in GFS right across, the basin, anywhere from 40 to 125 mils. But I would take that with a grain of salt, given GFS's resolution is pretty poor. Let's go to Axis G now, and Axis, of course, we saw it before. It's sort of favouring a bit more north, but Sydney has a bit of a bullseye and some strong up to what's in there, 100 mils plus. Again, I'm not sure about that, but it goes with timing as well. We saw what Axis did. Like if I was to maybe extend it out to the very end run now and see what it does with that second system. Let's have a look. It's way out. Let's have a look. 240. See what it does. I mean, yeah, look at that. I mean, 400 mils. Northern Sydney coast, Newcastle coastline, Sydney, up to 200 mils on the coast. Don't forget that's the extreme outer edges of this model. I mean, for Axis to do that, Axis is normally not an excitable model like that at all. It's very conservative because that's a bureau product, and I mean, for it to be saying 400 mils, it's just, yeah, okay. We'll just see what happens with that. I think that was 120, 132, wasn't it? Okay, quickly check Icon. This is the one, the higher res one, that and the EC. And you can see this is obviously the concern that I would have about the Icon scenario. Solid good falls in all the catchment areas, right across basically the basin, looking up to 125 mils, 150 mils possibly. I mean, this is averaged out, don't forget. And this is just a Saturday, Sunday. This is 2 days. Icon's only 4-day model. This is 2 days, Saturday, Sunday. Those sort of falls across 2 days, definitely going to see some river rises, flash flooding, if it happens. I mean, that was the classic scenario. I wonder if we'll have a look at winds in a minute and see what Icon says about the winds. And the last but not least, this is the, I haven't got GFS, I'll do a GFS in a minute. This is actually the new AI GFS, EC model. You can see quite clearly it's, it's again a bit averaged out. AI is going for saying, yeah, there's going to be heavy rain, and this is only for 2 days, mind you, too, or maybe into Monday as well. So it's only the 2.5 days plus. So all the things I'm showing you right now for the rain are 2.5 days. They're not a week, they're not 10 days. This is 2.5 days. So you're looking at, even the AI model says up to 115 mils. You know, this is averaged out type stuff. You know, it's interesting coming ahead. And what I'll do now is I'll quickly pull up EC first. We'll have a look at EC, what it's saying. We'll look at this together. I haven't seen it yet, so it's going to be all looking at this together. Let's go. And we want Saturday, which is 63. Just wait, I'll work out the time. 63 to 32. Let's have a look. Again, like solid falls, pretty much matching everything else. Bit of a dead area in here, but I wouldn't necessarily pin anything too much on that, as that's still too far away to be like. But you can see, I mean, ain't going to take much justice here. When the Sydney coast is going up to 150 mils, and Sunny Coast right down to the Illawarra again, of course, up to 150 mils. It only takes just a little shift to the west, and those areas. This is 2 days worth. Don't forget, 2.5 days worth. It's not a lot, and you're looking at wide slabs of 150 to 175 mils in 2 days. Yeah, it's going to be interesting period of time. So I'm going to have a quick look at the weather, the winds now. Let's see what Icon says for the winds. We'll zoom into us so we get a bit more high res than that. We'll go to Icon because it's obviously the one with the loves the set. We'll go to what's on wind gusts. Let's have a look. So we can see already. There's those winds. It's forming on the south, and it's picking up as it develops and starts to spin, as we'll see very shortly. And I mean, look at that! Wow, whole solid, very strong winds out there, and bang, and they're all coming ashore. Like coastline, 42 knots. Definitely right to the Illawarra in the eastern Sydneys at this stage. Let's see how it goes as it comes closer. Wow, classic ECL, East Coast Lake. I mean, look at that. 55 and destructive winds for a whole lot of the, possibly for the Illawarra coast, damaging at least in the Sydney coast, right up to the middle of the central coast, as that low approaches. That's classic ECL signature, and then like dramatically stop as the actual eye of the ECL comes basically over it. And even then, look at this. Normally the west tend to get away with missing some of this, and they're getting really strong stuff even into the west, on that southern wrap as it goes past us. And you'll get the gusty northwesties on the side, on the northern side of it, and then it rapidly POQs to the south. Classic ECL signature, classic. And so now it's going to be. Let's just see who wins out of the big model. Let's have a look at it. Its sister EC is saying. It's still got quite strong gusts. Like, don't get me wrong, just because it's not going to ECL just yet. I'm still not convinced about that. So, but I mean, we've still got very gusty, windy conditions. Starting after Saturday lunchtime and really starting to ramp up Sunday night. Look at that. It's going to be gusty, rainy, windy, even all the way through the whole of the basin. It's not going to be just in the mountains, which indicates quite a strong jet stream and strong winds just above the surface. And this is where the thing is, like, the models don't pick up very well, is we have these showers and rain with that. They drag down these winds from up above. So, there's 40, 50 knots sitting just above the surface, at 1K above the surface, when upcut. They'll be dragged down by showers. So gusty, squally showers and rain, definitely going to be even on these seas. And then to Monday, look, again, they got that. I just don't know, like, it's bizarre. It's not resolving an ECL. It wants to have an ECL, it also wants to have a deep Tasman low, and this band of absolutely hurricane force winds just off the coast. Extraordinary. Let's have a look at as that next system approaches. You can see that, wow, yeah, pushing into the basin Friday night wild, wet and woolly. It's just interesting. Very interesting time to get, and we'll have a quick look now. I don't think Axis is going to tell us quite a lot, because we saw how it sort of resolved this system. It's still a bit wishy-washy, but still quite strong gusty winds, and definitely picking up Sunday. and pushing into the basins. We can see again the winds over the mountains. Look at that, show that when showers come through and drag those winds down, then there's, well, this is as it comes. If you remember, it comes back. I mean, look at that, wow, just off the coast, destructive winds. Like the coastal areas of Sydney will be flogged on Monday, according to Axis anyway. Wish that'd stop popping up, really annoys me. And then of course let's have a look what it does again as the second system starts to brew. I mean, look at that, holy heck. Thursday night, Friday morning, wow. Wow. Just winds. Interesting 10 days ahead. I mean, this all holds. I mean, it's shifted around more than a fat person in a chair. Alright, so that's about it. I'll turn to your questions now because I really do have to hop off because I have to go and do the Uber run and pick someone up from work. Let's go. G'day Stephen, thank you for joining again. Good to see you. And Rachel, what's the difference between a Tasman low and East Coast low? Rachel, the big difference is essentially location, but also the area of severe weather on ECLs tends to be more tropical cyclone-like, which is very closer to the low-level circulation centre, the spinny circle, the heart of the low, as opposed to Tasman lows, which are a lot more, as you saw when I was showing the pictures, the winds are a bit more further away from the centre of the low, and it tends to be not as like a discrete centre. It tends to be very broad circulation, whereas you can see that, you know, very pinwheel-like look of the circulation centre with the Tasman low. That's probably the difference. And just the mechanics are different too. Like Tasman lows are basically just big vacuum cleaners that respond to cold air stairs, whereas East Coast lows are require certain ingredients to develop. So, g'day Nathan, hello. G'day Mark, good to see you. Rihanna, well, I've just said with the ECLs expected, hopefully you heard that. Otherwise if you didn't, let me know and I'll reply, but it's no locked in yet at this stage. But anyway, between, I would say, Port Stephens, Illawarra, like I've said Hunters, Illawarra, and that's what I'll stick with. It may form just off the Port Stephens, like that area there, like Nelson's Bay, but definitely us. No more rain, sorry EJ, can't promise you that. Asha, I'm not going to commit to when the wet starts. It's just going to start raining Saturday sometime. I'm not locked in with the models yet, so I don't want to say, oh yes, this is going to happen. It's going to be wet, a wet few days. I mean, you saw the models, even without the ECL around on two of the models, it's still wet. So I would say Saturday lunchtime onwards, it's starting to get wet. We may see some rain Friday, but that'll be more from the north, like a cloud band. There won't be anything connected with this stuff, so don't confuse the two different systems. G'day Jess, welcome from the Shire. It's for this weekend, Heidi, as it says in the event thing. It says Saturday 1st of June, Sunday 2nd and Monday 3rd. We're looking at the very first 6 jumper day. No Mark, it's actually going to be nude day, so get it going. I'm telling my family, said Saturday, all saying we're getting rain Friday. Yes, as I just said, Natty, hi, welcome by the way. We're getting rain on Friday, but it's from the north, it's from the cloud band, it's associated with the cold front, it's not associated with this system, even though they are connected in some ways, it's a different system altogether, so don't confuse the two. It'll be just normal cold front activity. It looks to, what I've just showed you, is it looks that we'll be seeing stuff happening from lunchtime, evening, Saturday, sometime around then. But the main part will be Sunday, Monday, who knows, keeps shifting around. Hello Brad, good to see you, thank you for joining us. G'day everybody else who's joined. Crap, the family just interrupted me. Did you just say no rain Friday? No, I did not say that. I said there will be rain Friday, but they're different systems. So the Friday will be a cloud band, which is associated with the basically the surface system, the cold front that will come through. The upper system would still be to the west of it. We'll see the rain from this system that I'm talking about now over the weekend develop across the weekend. Pretty, as I said, late Saturday, maybe like Saturday evening, not sure. I'm not going to lock it in, but it will be Saturday late sometimes, possibly Sunday overnight, possibly earlier Saturday, not sure. We'll see the timing. As you can see what I showed you, the timing is varied, which concerns me. I hate it when they do this to me, but they are all picking up something happening, and it's now a matter of just pinpointing that. And unfortunately, because it's it's Saturday night, Sunday, the 72-hour threshold window, the magic window, is not till tomorrow night. So we should have a lock-in by then, hopefully. Any other questions before I do hop off? I'll just close all these windows so it's not putting too much pressure on. Could recovery for the kids at Coogee on Friday night, so cross my fingers due to rain. I think Friday night you might be okay, Adrian, because I think that the cloud band that'll come through looks to be mainly during the day, not so much the night time. There may be a bit windy and cool, there might be a shower around, but this stuff doesn't start till Saturday evening, so it's not connected, so I think you might be okay. Otherwise, if there's no other stuff, thank you so much. It's so good to see all of you on. Hopefully it hasn't been too laggy tonight. I really did flog it so it would be tweaked as much as I could. Let me know in the comments how the stream was for you. If I go back and watch it, I don't get to see as much because I get a different version, as you imagine, and I also get it a bit laggier, so that's why I do take a bit longer to respond to questions. I do apologise, but it is, I know, like a delay. And that's to reduce the latency so you're not getting it too laggy, so it's not being too jerky for you. We'll look at trying increasing the latency, like getting rid of the latency so there's a bit more interactive with you, but it does get a bit choppy then, so I'm trying to work out exactly the way to do it. I think I've got a solution, but I want to test that. They are very hard to mark, and the thing about East Coast lasers is because they are very mesoscale, which is on the surface initiation, even though it's an upper system that causes stuff, the surface has to respond. We don't really know where yet until it happens, unfortunately, or very close to happens. Like, we might even get resolution until 24 hours beforehand, but the higher res models, like Icon is now kicked in, and then the Bureau's Access C, which is a higher res model, it'll start kicking in very soon too, so we'll have access to that. So, no pun intended, of course, we'll have a bit more forecasting tools available to me as of tomorrow. So otherwise, that's about it. I think that's as much as I can tell you tonight. Chuck the questions in there. Zara said, can you shout out the fellas? Yeah, g'day Zara and Natty and all the crew, wherever you guys are. Thank you for joining in, and make sure you encourage more people to join in. The better we have, the more people we have, the greater we get the message out there, the better we get to educate people. All right, I'm going to say good evening because I have to go and do the Uber run. So, ciao. Stick your comments in there. I will get to them when I get back. Thank you so much again. Let's bring it on, and let's hope it's a good ECL. No damage, of course, but I really want to see one of those nasty buggers that gives us a real pummeling, and no damage, and everybody's safe and sound. So I'm going to qualify with a big asterisk. All right. Good evening, everybody. Ciao.